The galaxy had known peace for 3,000 years. For humanity, this peace was not fragile. It was a living testament to intelligence, diplomacy, and cooperation. On Earth and its colonies, cities sparkled under artificial suns, and trade stations hummed with activity. Starships glided between planets, carrying goods, knowledge, and travelers. Humans were admired across countless star systems, not for their strength, but for their creativity and courage. In the capital city of Neoterra, the skyways were alive with movement. Ships of all sizes streaked across the air, leaving behind glowing trails that mirrored the stars beyond. Children played in zero-gravity parks, their laughter echoing across the city. Scholars and engineers discussed inventions that could improve life on distant colonies. Diplomats from alien civilizations mingled with humans, exchanging ideas and culture. It was a place where differences were celebrated and the galaxy's diversity thrived. Among the many residents of Neoterra, a young girl named Leora stood at the observation deck of the city's tallest tower. Her eyes followed a convoy of freighters as they left for distant worlds. Leora was 12, with curiosity in her gaze and a restless energy that often led her on small adventures through the city. Today, she watched the sky with a sense of wonder, unaware that her life and the lives of countless humans was about to change forever. Across the galaxy, beyond the peaceful systems of humans, the Xylarian Empire stirred. The Xylarians were a species built for conquest. Their ships were sleek and fast, their weapons advanced beyond human understanding. Where humans prized creativity and diplomacy, the Xylarians prized control and obedience. For millennia, humanity and the Xylarians had coexisted cautiously, never engaging in direct conflict. It was assumed that the Xylarians had no interest in a peaceful race that rarely sought war. That assumption was about to be shattered. At the edge of the Sol system, massive shadows appeared in the starry sky. Xylarian warships, each larger than a human city, emerged from hyperspace. Their arrival was sudden, precise, and terrifying. Sensors across human colonies detected the fleet almost instantly. Alarms sounded, messages were sent, and governments convened emergency councils. Yet, even with the best warning systems, no one could have anticipated what the Xylarians planned. The first strikes were swift and deliberate. Across multiple human colonies, children were seized. Leora felt the tremor first as her school's security shields activated automatically. Within minutes, Xylarian dropships had landed silently, and human defenses were overwhelmed. The children were taken, her friends and classmates among them. Panic spread like wildfire. Families searched frantically, but the aliens moved with surgical precision. By the time humans organized a counter-response, the Xylarians were gone, retreating into the void with their prisoners. In Neoterra's council hall, leaders gathered in urgent secrecy. Ambassador Selen, a seasoned diplomat with decades of experience, addressed the room. "They've taken our children," Selen said, voice trembling slightly, "hundreds across multiple colonies. They've struck simultaneously. This is not an act of war, it's a warning." General Harkon, commander of the Earth Defense Forces, slammed his fist on the table. "A warning? They've kidnapped children. We are not prepared for this. They outmatch us in every way." Yet, amidst the fear, a spark of determination ignited. Humanity had survived countless challenges before: plagues, natural disasters, and even limited skirmishes with alien forces. But this was different. This was personal. The leaders understood that the Xylarians had underestimated something fundamental: the human spirit. In the days that followed, humans learned more about the Xylarian motives. Intelligence reports revealed that the captured children were not merely hostages, they were being trained for a purpose. The Xylarians had an elite army composed of abducted young beings from multiple species. But humans were different. Humans' adaptability, ingenuity, and creativity made them uniquely valuable. The Xylarians sought to mold human children into perfect soldiers, loyal only to their empire. The revelation sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Parents, teachers, and leaders felt the weight of centuries of peace crumbling. The children of humanity, the future of every colony, every city, every community, were in the hands of an enemy who valued control over life itself. Amid the chaos, ordinary humans stepped forward. Engineers, scientists, and pilots offered their skills to track the Xylarian fleet. Leora's older brother, Kale, a young pilot in training, volunteered for reconnaissance missions. Even though he was not yet fully trained, his courage inspired others. Across colonies, similar stories unfolded, humans refusing to bow to fear. One scientist, Dr. Mara Ellen, discovered that the Xylarian fleet relied heavily on automated systems. By studying these systems, she found patterns that could be exploited. Small teams of humans began experimenting with ways to intercept communications, disable ships remotely, and plan rescue missions. Each minor success gave hope, even when the overall task seemed impossible. Meanwhile, Leora and other children who had been separated from their families were placed on transport ships bound for the Xylarian Central Station. Despite fear and confusion, humans showed remarkable resilience. Leora used her quick thinking to calm younger children, organize hiding places, and communicate silently with others. Even in captivity, the human instinct to protect, to adapt, and to survive shone brightly. Back on Earth, leaders convened with one understanding. Diplomacy alone would not retrieve the children. Military action alone would not succeed. Humanity needed a combination of strategy, ingenuity, and courage. A total mobilization of the human spirit. Plans were drafted in secrecy. Fleets were prepared. Resistance networks were formed, and scientists worked tirelessly to understand Xylarian technology. The first council meeting included not only politicians and generals, but engineers, teachers, and even children's advocates. Every perspective mattered. Discussions were heated, voices raised, and ideas debated. But the message was clear. Humanity would fight, not only to reclaim its children, but to prove that peace had never made them weak. Among the planners, a young strategist named Arik became central to the effort. Arik was known for seeing possibilities others missed. He proposed a daring idea. Instead of meeting the Xylarians head-on, humans would exploit their rigidity. While Xylarians relied on control and predictable tactics, humans would use unpredictability, creativity, and improvisation to strike back. As preparations continued, the first rescue attempts were planned. Small teams of pilots, engineers, and volunteers would infiltrate Xylarian territory using stealth ships, relying on Mara's understanding of alien systems. Each mission was dangerous, but even minor successes would boost morale. At night, Leora dreamed of home. She remembered the parks, the laughter, and the freedom she once took for granted. But she also realized something important. Humanity's strength was not just in technology or armies. It was in people. Courage, hope, and unity had always been the foundation of human survival. Even in captivity, she resolved to help in whatever way she could. On the morning of the first countermeasure mission, Neoterra's sky was filled with activity. Pilots prepared their ships, engineers tested systems, and children's families watched from observation towers, praying for success. Leora, hidden safely with other rescued children, whispered a promise to herself. She would never forget the bravery of those fighting for her, and would one day help reclaim the galaxy for humanity. The Xylarian fleet, unaware of the growing human resistance, continued its operations. But the first ripples of defiance had begun. Humanity, though shaken, refused to break. They were clever, resilient, and united. And as the stars stretched infinitely beyond Neoterra, one truth became clear. The calm of 3,000 years was over, but a new era had begun. One where humans would fight not just for survival, but for honor, for freedom, and for the future of their children. And somewhere deep in space, Leora and hundreds of other children waited, unaware that their ingenuity, courage, and resilience would one day become the turning point in humanity's fight against the Xylarian Empire. The galaxy would soon learn a lesson it had never understood. Humans were not just a peaceful species. When pushed to the edge, they could rise stronger, smarter, and braver than any enemy could imagine. The galaxy had never witnessed humanity's determination like it was about to. After the shocking seizure of hundreds of children, the initial fear across the colonies transformed into a fiery resolve. Humans were shaken, yes, but they were not defeated. Across Neoterra and other colonies, ordinary people became extraordinary. Teachers, engineers, pilots, and even children's friends and siblings joined together to fight back against the Xylarian Empire. In a hidden facility deep beneath Neoterra, Arik, the young strategist, paced before a holographic map of the galaxy. Red dots marked the Xylarian fleet and the locations where children had been taken. Blue dots represented human colonies and fledgling resistance bases. Every line, every movement was a calculation of what humans could do against a far superior enemy. "We cannot fight them directly," Arik said to the group of leaders and engineers gathered around him. "If we try to match their numbers or weapons, we will fail. But we can strike where they are weak. Their reliance on technology and control is their vulnerability." Dr. Mara Ellen nodded, her eyes bright with understanding. "I've analyzed their fleet systems. They depend on automated patterns, routines. If we can predict those patterns, we can create opportunities to intercept communications, sabotage supply lines, and rescue some children." "Some children?" asked Captain Rena Voss, a veteran pilot. "We have hundreds missing. How do we save them all?" "Step by step," Arik replied. "We begin with small victories, one mission at a time. Each success will grow our strength and give hope." Outside the hidden facility, the colonies buzzed with activity. Small groups of volunteers built improvised ships, retrofitted with stolen alien technology. Engineers worked day and night, modifying weapons and shields to survive Xylarian attacks. Pilots trained in stealth and evasive maneuvers. Every colony, even the most distant, contributed in its own way. Humans may have been outmatched, but they were never outsmarted. On one distant colony, Kale, Leora's older brother, prepared for his first reconnaissance mission. The mission was simple in theory: sneak past the Xylarian patrols, gather intelligence, and return. In reality, it was perilous. His ship, small and nimble, relied on cloaking technology barely understood by humans. Kale's heart raced as he checked the controls, thinking of Leora and the other children. Fear tugged at him. But it was replaced by determination. He would not fail. Meanwhile, Leora and other human children were still in Xylarian custody. The transport ships were vast, sterile, and cold. Guards monitored every movement. Yet even in captivity, the human spirit proved difficult to suppress. Leora quickly realized that fear alone would not protect the children. They needed organization, clever thinking, and courage. Using scraps of communication devices smuggled by sympathetic alien workers, Leora created small signals to coordinate with other groups. She taught younger children to remain calm, hide when necessary, and observe everything around them. They noticed patterns, guards' routines, shift changes, and moments when doors could be unlocked or sensors avoided. The seeds of resistance were planted, even in the heart of the Xylarian fleet. Back on Neoterra, the first human strike team was assembled. Captain Rena Voss led a squad of 5 ships, each equipped with Mara's experimental tech. Their goal: intercept Xylarian communications and locate the first group of captured children. The mission was dangerous. Failure could mean annihilation. Yet, as the ships launched from the hidden base, the pilots felt the weight of hope on their shoulders. The human fleet slipped into the void, cloaked and silent. They intercepted messages between Xylarian ships, decoding the patterns of patrols and supply routes. Every successful interception was a victory, small but meaningful. Rena's team discovered the location of a transport carrying dozens of children, including Leora's group. Excitement mixed with fear as the squad prepared for the first rescue attempt. Meanwhile, across the colonies, ordinary citizens contributed in ways big and small. Engineers modified cargo ships into stealth transporters. Teachers and trainers prepared the children for survival skills. Farmers and miners produced essential resources for ships and weapons. Every human played a part. It was not just a fight for children, it was a fight for the survival and honor of humanity. On the transport ship, Leora observed the guards and systems carefully. She noticed that some of the Xylarian patrols were predictable, repeating the same routines hour after hour. Using this knowledge, she directed younger children to hide in secure compartments while she prepared a subtle disruption in the security system. It was a dangerous move, but necessity demanded courage. The human strike team arrived at the Xylarian transport location. Rena's squad launched diversion drones, creating false signals to confuse the patrols. Meanwhile, Kale maneuvered his ship closer, using stealth to avoid detection. Mara's devices jammed the transport's communications just long enough for humans to land boarding parties. Inside the Xylarian ship, chaos quietly unfolded. The guards were momentarily distracted by the jamming signals. Leora and a few brave children seized the opportunity, quietly moving through corridors to access control panels they had observed during prior observation. Using clever manipulation, they unlocked storage compartments and guided smaller children into hidden areas. Rena's team provided cover, disabling electronic locks and neutralizing patrols without harming anyone. Every step was calculated, precise, and risky. The tension was immense, but the human determination could not be broken. Even under alien domination, they displayed ingenuity and courage. The first rescue mission succeeded. Dozens of children were recovered, including Leora's group. The ships returned to human-controlled space, hearts pounding with relief and pride. It was not just a tactical victory, it was a symbolic one. Humans had shown that they could challenge the Xylarian Empire, even when the odds were overwhelming. News of the successful rescue spread quickly across the colonies. Families reunited, and hope surged. Humanity was no longer simply reacting, they were taking action. Across the galaxy, humans began to realize that they could fight back, not with sheer force alone, but with intelligence, courage, and adaptability. Arik convened another council, this time with renewed confidence. "We have proven that we can strike back," he said. "We cannot stop now. Every mission, every action builds strength. The Xylarians may have technology, but we have what they cannot predict: creativity, courage, and unity." Dr. Mara Ellen added, "The children we rescued are teaching us as much as we are teaching them. They observe, adapt, and act with courage we cannot underestimate. Humanity's strength is not in machines alone. It is in the spirit of its people." Captain Raina Voss smiled faintly. "Every ship, every team, every person who contributes is a spark. And soon, sparks will become a fire the Xylarian Empire cannot ignore." Across the galaxy, humans of all ages and skills joined the effort. Scientists designed new devices to manipulate alien systems. Pilots trained for stealth and quick strikes. Citizens organized supply lines, intelligence networks, and shelters for rescued children. Even those who could not fight contributed with ingenuity, creating solutions and support that kept the resistance alive. Back on the recovered children's transport, Leora looked at the faces around her, children who had faced fear and danger but refused to surrender. She felt a growing sense of responsibility, a determination that even a child could contribute to humanity's fight. She whispered to herself, "We will not be broken, we will fight, and we will win." The Xylarian Empire, meanwhile, remained unaware of the growing human defiance. They assumed that humans were demoralized, fractured, and weak. Yet the reality was far different. Humanity was learning, adapting, and becoming something the Xylarians had never anticipated. A species united not by fear, but by hope, courage, and an unyielding will to protect its own. In the days following the first successful rescue, humans celebrated quietly but strategically. Debriefs and planning sessions continued. Each small victory was analyzed for lessons, each mistake corrected. The resistance grew stronger, not just in skill, but in spirit. Communities that had been distant before now communicated and collaborated, sharing resources, intelligence, and courage. Humanity had begun to understand a profound truth. Peace had not weakened them. It had trained them to value life, cooperation, and creativity. And now, in the face of a merciless enemy, those very qualities became weapons more powerful than any fleet or weapon could ever be. Leora, Kale, Arik, Rena, and Mara were only the beginning. Across colonies and star systems, ordinary humans discovered extraordinary courage. Children learned to survive and observe. Engineers found solutions others would have deemed impossible. Pilots executed maneuvers no one thought achievable. Every human, in their own way, contributed to a growing force that the Xylarian Empire could not foresee. As night fell across Neoterra, the stars above shimmered with silent promise. Humanity was no longer simply reacting to events. They were shaping their destiny. The calm that had lasted 3,000 years was gone, replaced by a rising storm of courage and defiance. And somewhere far beyond the reach of human fleets, the Xylarian Empire continued its operations, oblivious that the species they underestimated was learning, adapting, and preparing to fight back in ways they could not imagine. The spark of resistance had ignited. And soon, it would become a fire that could sweep across the galaxy. The human resistance had grown from scattered sparks into a rising flame. Across the colonies, humans prepared for a bold move, a coordinated strike against the Xylarian Empire's supply routes and strongholds. The goal was not to defeat the enemy outright, that was impossible, but to prove that humanity could fight, adapt, and survive, no matter how powerful the opponent. In the command hub beneath Neoterra, Eric studied a three-dimensional map of the Xylarian fleet. Red lines marked patrol routes, supply chains, and transport corridors. Blue dots represented human teams ready to strike. Every connection, every movement had to be precise. Timing is everything, Arik explained to the assembled leaders. If we move too early, the Xylarians will crush us. If we move too late, the children could be transferred deeper into their territory, and we might lose them forever. Captain Rena Voss, preparing her squadron of stealth ships, nodded. We'll strike where they least expect it. Disrupt their supply lines, confuse their patrols, and recover as many children as we can. Each mission builds confidence, for us and for the galaxy. Meanwhile, Kale and his reconnaissance team flew near the edges of Xylarian space. They had learned to anticipate patrol patterns, evade detection, and strike swiftly. Every mission was dangerous, but Kale's resolve had grown. He thought constantly of Leora and the other children, using their safety as fuel for his courage. In the shadows of the Xylarian fleet, human ingenuity shone brighter than any weapon. Engineers had retrofitted cargo ships with stealth technology, jamming devices, and rapid deployment systems. Pilots trained tirelessly, learning not only how to fight but how to survive in extreme situations. Scientists adapted alien systems, turning enemy strengths into vulnerabilities. The first large-scale strike began with a carefully coordinated attack on a Xylarian supply station orbiting a distant planet. Mara's team had discovered a weak point in the station's defenses, an energy conduit that, if disrupted, would disable the shields for a short window. Rena's squadron approached silently, cloaked against detection. Kale piloted one of the lead ships, nerves taut but determination unwavering. Remember, Rena reminded them, we're not just fighting for victory, we're fighting for every child taken from us. Keep them safe at all costs. The human ships moved with precision. Mara's devices jammed the station's sensors, masking their presence. Boarding teams landed on the station, neutralizing patrols without alerting the main fleet. Inside, the corridors were sterile, metallic, and silent, except for the quiet hum of machinery. Meanwhile, Leora and the other children had learned to remain calm under pressure. Using the techniques she had devised, Leora guided smaller children through the hallways toward hidden compartments and emergency exits. Even in the midst of alien domination, the human instinct to survive and protect shone brightly. The boarding teams reached the energy conduit. Engineers worked swiftly, rerouting power and preparing to disable the station's shields. Every second was critical. Outside, Xylarian patrols scanned for anomalies, unaware that humans were already inside their stronghold. With a final adjustment, Mara's team triggered the conduit disruption. Alarms blared across the station, but the human boarding parties had already secured their positions. Shields flickered and failed. Rena's squadron moved in, extracting the rescued children and retreating before reinforcements could arrive. The mission was a success. Dozens of children were recovered, and the humans had struck a symbolic blow against the Xylarian Empire. Across the colonies, news of the victory inspired hope and courage. The message was clear. Humans could fight back. Yet the victories came with cost. Some boarding teams suffered casualties, equipment was damaged or destroyed. And every mission revealed the challenges ahead. The Xylarians were relentless, and every action invited retaliation. Back on Neoterra, the Council reviewed the mission results. "We have proven that we can challenge the Xylarians," Arik said. "But they are learning too. We must adapt faster than they can predict us." Dr. Mara Ellen added, "The children we rescued are teaching us as much as we are teaching them. Their observations, their courage, they are invaluable. Humanity's strength is not in weapons alone. It is in spirit, creativity, and determination." Across other colonies, similar operations unfolded. Human teams sabotaged supply ships, disrupted communication lines, and gathered intelligence. Every small victory strengthened morale. Pilots who had once been trainees now executed complex maneuvers with confidence. Engineers developed new devices to intercept Xylarian signals. Citizens organized support networks, sharing resources and intelligence across star systems. In one daring operation, Kale led a squadron deep into enemy territory. Using clever decoys and evasive maneuvers, they struck a Xylarian transport convoy. Mara's jamming devices created confusion, allowing the human team to disable engines and free the children aboard. Every child rescued added to the growing hope of humanity. Yet, even in the midst of victories, humans faced challenges. Fear, doubt, and fatigue tested their resolve. Some questioned whether the fight was worth the risk. Others worried about the children still in captivity. But through every trial, humanity's defining traits, courage, ingenuity, and unity, kept the resistance moving forward. On Neoterra, Leora watched reports of the missions, her heart swelling with pride. She knew her brother Kale had participated, and she imagined the faces of other children being rescued. Even in captivity, she felt a connection to the human resistance. She began to teach other children new survival skills, preparing them for future opportunities to escape or assist. The Xylarian Empire, confident in their superiority, had not expected such resistance. They were used to species that broke under fear, that followed orders without question. Humans were different. Humans adapted, learned, and improvised. The Xylarians were beginning to understand that intelligence, courage, and unpredictability were formidable weapons. In the next phase of their plan, humans began targeting Xylarian command hubs. These missions were riskier, but offered the potential to disrupt enemy operations on a larger scale. Arik studied every detail, calculating timing, routes, and contingencies. Mara and her engineers devised devices to exploit the rigid systems the Xylarians relied upon. Rena's pilots trained tirelessly, preparing for maneuvers that would push their ships and their courage to the limit. Every mission, no matter how small, contributed to a growing understanding. Humans were not just fighting for survival. They were reclaiming their future. Every child rescued, every supply route disrupted, and every intelligence victory proved that even a species that had lived peacefully for millennia could rise to extraordinary challenge. One particularly daring mission involved infiltrating a heavily guarded Xylarian research station. The station contained both children and valuable intelligence on Xylarian technology. Kale led the operation with a team of skilled pilots, while Arik coordinated strategy from the command hub. Mara's devices created temporary blind spots in the station's sensors, allowing human teams to move undetected. Inside, the human teams faced challenges that tested their courage and ingenuity. Doors required careful manipulation, patrols had to be evaded, and power systems had to be rerouted. Every decision mattered. Leora, guiding children quietly, demonstrated the same resourcefulness that inspired the adults. Even in captivity, humans adapted, improvised, and persevered. The mission succeeded, freeing dozens of children and gathering intelligence that would prove invaluable for future operations. The Xylarian Empire, taken by surprise, began to realize that humans were learning faster than expected. Each victory, though small in scale compared to the Xylarians' power, represented a significant shift in the balance of hope and morale. Back on Neoterra, celebrations were brief but meaningful. Humanity had proven that it could fight back, that courage and ingenuity were stronger than fear. Auric addressed the council, emphasizing the lessons learned. The Xylarians may have superior technology, but they cannot predict our creativity. They cannot break our spirit. Humanity's strength is not in what we have, it is in who we are. Dr. Mara Ellen nodded. We have learned from every child, every volunteer, every pilot. Our people are resilient, adaptable, and brave. That is a power the Xylarians cannot comprehend. Even as humans celebrated, preparations for the next phase continued. Larger missions, greater risks, and more ambitious operations awaited. The fight was far from over, but humanity had proven a fundamental truth. They would not be passive victims. They would rise, strike back, and protect their own. Leora, now safe with the rescued children, looked out at the stars. The galaxy was vast, filled with dangers and wonders alike. But she felt a sense of hope, a belief in the courage of her people. Humans had faced the unimaginable and had responded not with despair, but with determination. As the resistance grew, humans began to understand something profound. Peace had not weakened them. Peace had taught them compassion, creativity, and patience. And now, in the midst of conflict, those qualities became weapons more powerful than any Xylarian technology. The stars above Neoterra seemed to shimmer with promise. Humanity was no longer simply surviving, they were striking back. Every mission, every act of courage, every rescue contributed to a growing fire of defiance. The Xylarian Empire had underestimated humans. They had assumed peace meant weakness. But humanity had shown that peace could produce resilience, ingenuity, and courage beyond measure. The spark of resistance had grown into a flame, and soon humanity would prove that even against the most powerful enemies, unity, creativity, and courage could change the course of history. The galaxy held its breath. After months of daring strikes, intelligence gathering, and small-scale rescues, humanity was ready to take the next step. The resistance had grown from scattered cells into a coordinated force. They had learned, adapted, and strengthened. Now it was time for the decisive phase, a large-scale strike against the heart of the Xylarian Empire's operations, to liberate the remaining human children and send a message that humanity could never be controlled. In Neoterra's command hub, Auric reviewed the plan for the final operation. A holographic map displayed the Xylarian Central Station, a massive structure orbiting a remote star. This station housed not only the remaining children, but also critical command and supply operations. Every human team, every ship, every volunteer had a role. Today, we strike together, Auric said, his voice steady. Every action counts. Our goal is not only to rescue the children, but to show that humans will never bow to fear or oppression. Stay united, trust your training, and remember, our strength is in our courage and ingenuity. Captain Rena Voss adjusted her flight controls, preparing her squadron for launch. Pilots double-checked weapons, cloaking devices, and navigation systems. Engineers monitored power levels, communication lines, and Mara's interference devices. Even children who had already been rescued were trained to assist in small ways, spotting vulnerabilities and helping coordinate evacuations. Across the colonies, the same determination burned. Teams of volunteers coordinated logistics, supplying ships with fuel, food, and equipment. Scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to improve stealth technology and communications jamming. Humanity's efforts were collective. Everyone had a role, and everyone mattered. The fleet left Neoterra quietly, slipping into the darkness of space. Cloaked ships glided past patrolling Xylarian vessels, using every trick humans had learned in months of daring raids. Each pilot relied on instinct, skill, and trust in their companions. Inside the Xylarian Central Station, the remaining human children waited, unaware that rescue was near. Leora, now a guiding voice among the younger children, remained calm. She had grown in courage and confidence. She quietly prepared escape routes, observing the routines of the Xylarian guards, and ensuring every child knew how to move quickly when the opportunity arose. The strike began with careful precision. Mara's devices jammed the station's communications, creating brief windows of confusion. Human boarding teams led by Captain Reyna and Kale moved in silently. They disabled patrols, neutralized automated defenses, and guided the children toward secure areas. Every move was calculated, but the pressure was immense. Failure was not an option. In the station's main command hub, Arik coordinated operations remotely, monitoring the flow of events. He watched as boarding teams encountered unexpected challenges, locked doors, security grids, and sudden patrol shifts. But every obstacle was overcome with human ingenuity. Quick thinking, improvisation, and teamwork allowed the teams to adapt faster than the Xylarians anticipated. Leora led a group of children down hidden corridors, guiding them toward escape pods that had been secretly modified to bypass Xylarian controls. Her courage inspired others, and even the youngest children followed her with trust. They moved swiftly, silently, and efficiently. Outside the station, Rena's squadron engaged with Xylarian interceptors. Dogfights erupted among the stars, but human pilots used cunning and unexpected maneuvers to evade capture. They exploited weaknesses in the Xylarian formations, turning the enemy's reliance on rigid tactics against them. Every victory, no matter how small, allowed more time for the rescue inside. Kyle led a daring maneuver, using a decoy ship to draw patrols away from key escape routes. His nerves were tested, but his focus never wavered. Each pilot relied on trust and communication, understanding that every second mattered. Inside the command hub, Mara worked with engineers to hack the station's systems, opening doors, shutting down alarms, and ensuring that escape routes remained clear. Her hands moved quickly, thinking several steps ahead, knowing that failure could mean disaster. The children reached the escape pods just as Xylarian reinforcements arrived. Alarms blared, lights flashed, and the tension was at its peak. Yet humanity's preparation, ingenuity, and courage allowed the evacuation to succeed. The pods launched, guided by pre-programmed trajectories, and safely entered human-controlled space. Meanwhile, the boarding teams executed the final phase, disabling the station's energy cores to prevent pursuit. The Xylarians, stunned by the speed and precision of the operation, scrambled to respond, but humans had already withdrawn strategically, avoiding unnecessary losses. Back on Neoterra, the Council watched anxiously as the mission unfolded. The children's safe return was confirmed, and cheers erupted throughout the command hub. Humanity had achieved something extraordinary. They had struck at the heart of a far superior empire and emerged victorious. The Xylarian Empire, shaken by the unexpected success, began to understand a critical truth. Humans could not be easily controlled, predicted, or broken. Their creativity, courage, and adaptability were far beyond the rigid structures the Xylarians relied upon. In the aftermath of the operation, the rescued children reunited with their families. Tears, laughter, and embraces filled homes across colonies. Leora and Kale reunited, their bond strengthened by the trials they had faced. Humanity celebrated not only the rescue of their children, but the triumph of spirit over fear, ingenuity over control. Arik addressed the Council once more. This victory is more than a tactical success. It is proof of who we are. We are a species that values life, courage, and freedom. We do not break under pressure. We rise, we adapt, and we protect what is ours. Let this be known across the galaxy. Humanity will never be subjugated. Dr. Mara Ellen added, the Xylarian Empire underestimated the most important strength of humanity, the human spirit. Our children, our volunteers, our engineers, our pilots, they all prove that courage and ingenuity cannot be defeated by technology alone. Across the colonies, celebrations continued, but humanity also looked forward. The Resistance knew that the Xylarian Empire would not retreat quietly. Future conflicts might arise, but humans had learned a vital lesson. They could face the impossible and prevail. Every small victory, Every act of courage had built a foundation for the future. The galaxy itself seemed to respond to humanity's triumph. Humans resumed exploration, trade, and diplomacy with renewed confidence. Alien civilizations that had once doubted human resilience now watched with respect. Humanity had shown that peace did not make them weak. It had made them wise, strong, and united. In the following months, humans continued to strengthen defenses, improve technology, and train new generations for challenges ahead. Leora, Kale, and others inspired by the events took active roles in planning, teaching, and exploring. The rescued children, once victims of abduction, became symbols of resilience and hope for the entire species. The Xylarian Empire, once a looming shadow over humanity, reconsidered its assumptions. They had faced a species that, though peaceful for thousands of years, could rise with intelligence, creativity, and courage unmatched by any machine or weapon. The humans had demonstrated that their greatest strength was not in fleets or technology alone. It was in unity, determination, and the refusal to surrender. As the sun rose over Neoterra, casting golden light across cities and colonies, Arik looked out over the horizon. He thought of the children, the pilots, the engineers, and every human who had contributed to the effort. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. Leora, standing beside her brother Kale, looked up at the sky. The stars stretched infinitely, filled with possibilities and dangers alike. But she felt hope, courage, and pride. Humanity had faced the impossible and triumphed. They had proven that no empire, no force, and no enemy could crush the spirit of a people united by courage and hope. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had risen, not with destruction, but with ingenuity, determination, and unyielding spirit. The calm of 3,000 years had been broken, but from that breaking came a new era, an era where humanity's strength, courage, and unity would shine across the stars forever. And somewhere in the vastness of space, the Xylarian Empire learned a truth they would never forget. Humans were not a species to underestimate. Their spirit, their courage, and their ingenuity were limitless. The fire of resistance had become a flame that would never fade, and humanity's legacy of peace, courage, and brilliance was secured across the galaxy.